Hello, my friends. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much for pressing play. I think you're really going to love my conversation with one of my favorite people. I absolutely love Andrew Spar. He, of course, is the president of the biggest teachers union in Florida, the Florida Education Association. And as you can imagine, if you pay attention to news or just live in Florida, there is plenty, way too much to talk about in terms of what's happening for Florida's kids, teachers, educators, administrators, everybody involved in the schools as a result of the Republican leadership there. My guest, Andrew Spar, born and raised in the suburbs of New York, attended public schools, got his bachelor's degree in music from the Ohio State University, moved down to Florida to teach elementary school there, eventually working his way up to be the union steward. For 7 years, he went on to become the president of his local union in Volusia United Educators in Florida, then got elected to the Florida Education Association vice president. In September 2020, he was named FEA president after the previous president, Frederick Ingram, who's also amazing, went on to the American Federation of Teachers, become secretary treasurer there. And Andrew Spar is one of the smartest, most compassionate, passionate, thoughtful, amazing people I know. Nobody knows Florida politics that I know like Andrew Spar. And he has brought me down there to fire up, speak to, and share the stories of Florida teachers several times. So I've really got to know the membership and pretty plugged in on all things going on in Florida. You probably know Carla Hernandez, who ran on the ticket with Charlie Crist. Well, I met Carla through Andrew Spar and FEA. She's amazing, amazing people down there. And I just love, obviously, Andrew and all of his work, which is why I reached out to him to talk to him about what the hell is happening down there. Also, we did broadcast this live on Facebook just to see what would happen there. So you can see it on my Facebook page, Stand Up with Pete Dominic. If you haven't liked that, go check it out right now. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, let's do it. How about it? Let's get to my conversation. Follow Andrew Spar on social media at Andrew Spar, FEA. And, of course, Florida Education Association is at Florida EA. Give them a follow to keep track of what's going on down there. All right, let's do it right now. Andrew Spar. Mr. President?
Yeah, I think it's going. Are we on Facebook, my friend? I think we're on Facebook. We're on Facebook, Andrew.
Look, it's amazing technology, isn't it? We can be on Facebook.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just trying this out now. I had no better person to try it out with because he's a good friend of mine and patient than the president of the Florida Education Association, the person that pretty much every media outlet wants to talk to, from the Wall Street Journal to CNN, national, local, everything about what the hell is happening in Florida. And I was just talking. So thank you, sir, for joining me. And everybody should be supporting and liking the Florida Education Association Facebook page. And hello to all my friends at FEA. Andrew, thank you.
Absolutely, Pete. Great to be here. And yes, all things Florida these days, it seems. If there's a crazy idea, it's happening here in the state of Florida.
Well, yeah. And you are there to fight against all of that. And you and your membership and so many amazing people that I've gotten to know are standing up every day. But here's something. I mean, I didn't know about this, and it's apparently not getting that much attention. But people have heard about the book banning across the country. They've heard more specifically about this AP course when it comes to advanced placement Black history. We'll get into that in some of those books. But there's something more. It's really deep and crazy. And I think, seriously, someone's going to have to write a screenplay. What is going on with the book banning? Where do we start?
Yeah, so a lot of districts in Florida have been concerned about they might be challenged. They might be people who come forward and say you can't have these books in schools. So what they've done in a lot of cases is they've told teachers to pack up any books that they have bought, that the teachers themselves have bought in their classroom so that kids can't get to them. And, you know, our schools in Florida are very underfunded. And so without teacher bought books, there's very few books in a classroom. If you go into an elementary classroom anywhere in the country, really, you will see books everywhere. And most of those books are books bought by teachers for kids in their class, and they build their classroom library. And so we've had situations in Florida where teachers were told to cover up their bookshelves or pack up all of their books. I heard a story from a parent recently where her second grader, I think it was, or first grader, came home in tears because there were no more books in the classroom. And so as we're talking to teachers and staff and parents all over the state, they're getting very frustrated. And it doesn't matter whether they're Republican, Democrat, no party affiliation, conservative parts of the states. They're very upset that there is a law that is forcing books out of a classroom. And
so sometimes people say, you hear this argument about government overreach usually comes from conservative people who hate government. But then you can argue, well, when they're in charge, they certainly overreach. And certainly that's what DeSantis is doing there. But it's what you're saying is it's conservatives being consistent on the idea, on the principle that government shouldn't tell us what we can read. And it's obviously a pragmatic idea, because then if the wrong government's in charge, they're going to tell us we can't read our stuff. So you're telling me that even in some conservative areas, and there's a lot of them in Florida, people sometimes don't realize it. I think probably most people do at this point. They're saying what about book banning?
People are upset. No matter where they are in the state of Florida, no matter what their political affiliation is, they don't understand why books are being pulled out of schools. And let's be clear, because we've seen different things happen throughout our state. Clay County, Florida is just outside of Duval County. And in Clay County, Florida, they changed their rules if someone challenges a book. It used to be if someone challenged a book, they would go through a review process. The book would still be in circulation on the bookshelf, so on. Now in Clay County, if someone challenges a book, they automatically pull the book out of circulation, pull it out of kids' hands, basically, right? And it's crazy because anyone now under the law passed last year in Florida, anyone can challenge books in schools, not just parents. So in Clay County, there's a guy who has no kids in the school system, who's literally put in hundreds of challenges to books, says he's going to challenge 3,200 books, and they're literally having to pull these books out of circulation. And when he fills out the form, and it says reason for challenging the book, and he says harmful to kids. And then they said, what's the content you're concerned about? What's your specific concern with the book? And he says inappropriate content. And that's it. And so a reporter asked the guy, have you read these books? And his answer was, no surprise, Pete, right? His answer was no. He hadn't read the books. And so
he went on to say, listen, I'm not a big reader. What I am is super angry about all these inappropriate things that I'm hearing. It's really the most important point that anybody who ever talks about this issue is it's easy to pull some passage out of a book and then plaster it all over and be the politician like DeSantis and others reading that. And it's like, wow, that does sound a little bit inappropriate until you realize the context of the entire book or any number of other arguments. It's a cheap move. And this guy is apparently having successes along with others. What's the strategy? How much success? Yeah. What can you do?
Yeah, look, whether it's in Clay County, Manatee County, some other counties, there are people who have no kids in the school system challenging these books. The books are being pulled till they review them. In some cases, districts are banning books like Blue Eyes that has been on the shelves for many years. And look, the teachers in Florida face a third-degree felony if they have books in the schools that are determined to be either pornographic or sexually explicit. Third-degree felony, which didn't used to exist. There's always been a law. If you give kids pornographic materials, it's third-degree felony. But now they put it into the idea if there's books that someone has viewed as pornographic or sexually explicit, some of these people who are banning books are saying, well, there was two girls kissing in the book. It's a high school book, right, that some kids may read. And they're saying, well, that's a pornographic book because they disagree with the ideology of the book or the belief in the book. But
they don't. I'm just going to say they don't. I'm saying the people who are screaming about two girls kissing are definitely watching two girls kissing on the internet in the privacy of their own home on incognito. That's just my suspicion. But it's a complete BS argument, of course, as well. And again, these books are sometimes they're being taught in class, but oftentimes, most of the time, they're just available for people. And of course, there are ways to define and agree on how to define what is pornographic, what is sexually explicit. And there's no pornographic material in schools. They make sure of that. Come on.
Yeah, there's a whole process. When books come into schools, there are multiple people who are involved in it. They usually are buying books for a specific purpose. Someone has asked for it. Kids have asked for it. Parents have asked for it. And here's the thing, again, I want to really emphasize that a lot of the objections in the schools are coming from people without kids in schools. And here's why, Pete. You do this as a dad. I do it as a dad. Your kids come home from school. You talk to them, right? You maybe ask them, how was your day? What was something exciting you did today? What was something new you learned today? What are you reading? Like, we're involved in our kids. That's what most parents do. kids aren't just checking out books and no one knows what it is. And in Florida, like a lot of other states, if a parent doesn't want their kid reading certain books, they can opt them out of it. They can tell the media center, do not let my kid check out books of this content or this specific book. Or they can say to the teacher, if they're reading, Macbeth, and they decide that's a dangerous book for their child to read, they could, or the Scarlet Letter. That was a good one that just came up. The Scarlet Letter, you can't read it anymore. It's pornographic as far as we're concerned, and I don't want my kid reading that book. Well, in Florida, a parent can say, I don't want my kid reading that book. Can you give them an alternative assignment? And by law, they do, and it's never an issue. But now what you have is someone saying who doesn't have kids in the school.
That sounds like parental rights. That sounds like parental rights, what you just described. The parent can.
And now what you have in the law is not parental rights. It's someone outside the school system with no kids in the school system saying, hey, I want this Scarlet Letter pulled out. No kid should read that book. Well, as a parent, I think my kid should read that book. And yet there's this government overreach where they can come in now and say, no, they can't read that book. And I know we're going to talk about the AP course as well. And that's another one. My daughter is going into 9th grade next year. She's probably going to take AP classes. She's in honors and advanced classes now. She'll probably take AP classes in high school. Damn straight, I want my daughter to learn about African-American history. My wife is African-American. And so we want her to learn about African-American history. And if she has the opportunity to take an AP course on African-American studies, just like an AP course on European history, if she has the opportunity to take it, I'm going to encourage her to take it. But our governor has said, no, you can't in the state of Florida. I'm not going to allow you as a parent to have your kid enrolled in an AP advanced class. Well, who the heck is the governor to be the parent of my kid? I want to be the parent of my kid, and I want them exposed to different things. And as an active, engaged parent, I'm going to make decisions for my child with my child, by the way. I don't do it and just say my child will do this.
Right.
I make decisions with my kids as they get older. Because I want them to be responsible when they grow up. And I think that's what most parents want and do.
Fired up Andrew Spar as the president of the Florida Education Association and a parent. It's such a really important issue, and we can make the arguments. I wish we didn't have to help people understand this issue. And I would always argue that a lot of these parents that are fired up are new to the schools. They don't take advantage often of the parent-teacher conferences or open house night. They don't attend those things. All of a sudden, they're just outraged. Not everybody, but that's certainly something I think we see a lot. All these people getting engaged just because of cherry-picked arguments that they're hearing, and especially including from the governor. But what do you do in reaction? What is the FEA doing? What are your members doing? I mean, it's scary to think that teachers can be penalized for having a certain book or teaching a certain lesson in terms of what we're talking about. Of course, there's some things that are inappropriate and they should be fired. But what are you doing to react to all of this?
Well, right now, of course, our members are just beside themselves. Yeah. And it's contributing to the massive teacher and staff shortage we have in the state of Florida. In January, we surveyed our school districts. We go on their website. We see how many vacancies they have. There were over 5,200 teacher vacancies in the state of Florida and another almost 4,700 support staff vacancies, bus drivers, custodians, cafeteria workers, teacher assistants, also known as paraprofessionals. So literally almost 10,000 vacancies in schools in the state of Florida. And I got to tell you, the Department of Education in the state of Florida, when they were asked about it, they said, oh, that's just the union. It's a myth. There really is no teacher or staff shortage in the state of Florida. They called it a myth.
Wow.
And a myth. Can you believe this?
I can believe it, but it's just it's so deeply offensive to not be able to agree on such a thing. Hey, there's a shortage of people here at the job, at the warehouse, at the school, wherever. We need more people. No, there's not. Get to work. Do all of the work. Never stop working. Do the work of all the other teachers. And by the way, to not have enough adults in the school and in the class is a nightmare for the adults who are there. It's just so hard to be there. Sorry. But okay, so go ahead. Sorry.
Look, hundreds of thousands of kids are impacted by this, right? At my daughter's school, we live in a nice neighborhood. You know what we do. And at her middle school, one day, one of her teachers was out and there weren't enough substitutes. So she was sent to the gymnasium. Because that's where they send the kids when there aren't enough substitutes. It's not an academic situation at that point, right? And I said, well, were there other classes there? She says, oh, yeah. She said there were a couple other classes there. She said, in fact, one of them, the 7th grade math teacher quit a couple of weeks ago, and they don't have a teacher right now. Well, that means those kids aren't getting the education they deserve and need. And when I talk about over 5,200 vacancies in our schools, that's a more than 200% increase than it was 5 years ago at this point. Usually at this point, we're pretty stable. We have some vacancies, but we're pretty stable. When you're talking about those kinds of numbers, hundreds of thousands of kids are not getting the education they deserve and need. And that's what we should be focused on, to be honest with you. When we talk with lawmakers in Tallahassee, a lot of them want to focus on that. They recognize we've got to do something about pay in Florida, which is really problematic. We've got to lift up the profession and get more kids to go into the teaching profession. That's what a lot of lawmakers on both sides of the aisle want to focus on, and we should focus on. That's what parents want us to focus on. Yet we're talking about banning AP classes. We're talking about banning books.
Yeah, no, I'm old enough to remember our early conversations, talking about ed policy, talking about testing and class sizes and charter schools versus public schools and the history of public education and curriculum and obviously union stuff. I mean, we used to talk about education reform and how to make public schools better. I mean, that was a weird buzzword, usually from the right. But the bottom line was we were talking about more serious policy issues. Now we're talking about this fringe Alex Jones driven, right wing conspiracy driven stuff that drives people apart to get votes. So let's get into just some of that. DeSantis, whether it be LGBTQ rights and and being seen, just literally being seen and protected in schools, to other more historically marginalized folks in America. Now you've got they're talking about the AP thing. You touched on this. You've just got to sit here and sometimes react to it. And it's going to be hard to react to, but you are seeing these things coming. What do you say? What's everybody want to know reaching out to you about the advanced placement course for African-American history? It's crazy what broke over the last 24 hours.
Yeah. So, look, there's a few things here I would go at. In Florida, you're not free to decide what books your kids are going to read at school. You're not free to decide what classes they're going to take at school. At our college and university level, again, there's an attempt to take out classes on diversity, classes on inclusion, right? And so there's this big move to do that, which means college kids aren't going to have the freedom to decide which classes they want to take. These are mostly elective classes, enrichment kind of classes that kids take because it interests them. And we're talking about taking them out, the government overreaching and saying you can't do that anymore. And then we're seeing it even this way. As a union, as educators, we speak up. Teachers and staff in the state of Florida and across this nation speak up for kids. That's what they do. These are the same teachers who take money out of their pocket to buy books for the classroom, to make sure kids can go on field trips, to make sure they have new sneakers. This is what teachers do every day. They shouldn't have to, but they do.
My mom did that. My mom did that in the 80s. I'd always see her buying stuff for kids and spending a lot of money, even taking the kids out themselves for dinner. And I mean, you've heard me talk about this. This is what teachers do. Go ahead.
It is. It's what teachers do. And we have to remember, teachers are people who've come out of college to become teachers right off the bat. They're also retired military, former military, veterans who served our country. They're also married to police and firefighters. Teachers are the people who are sitting next to you on Friday or Saturday night in the synagogue, or they're people who sit in the pew next to you on a Sunday morning in church. That's who teachers are. They give of their time. They give, and they're connected to the community. They give of their money. They will do anything to make sure that kids succeed. That's what teachers and staff do in our schools all the time. You hear about school bus drivers who have books on the bus so kids can read there, being told, by the way, to take those books off the bus. I mean, it's crazy kind of stuff because all teachers care about is helping kids. And so when now we're hearing, hey, because they'll speak up, and with our governor, look, if Governor DeSantis has made it clear, if you're not in lockstep with him, he comes after you. He took out a state attorney because the state attorney didn't agree with him on what he was doing regarding abortion, right? He took out school board members because he didn't like what they were doing regarding protecting kids and making sure kids had safe, healthy environments in which they go to school. So he takes out school board members. So yeah, naturally, he's coming after teachers and staff in the state of Florida. He now wants to say to them, you can't make decisions on your own. You can't make decisions about the curriculum. You can't make decisions about the books you read. And you can't make decisions about coming together in your union to speak up for
it's such a crazy, it's such an insane argument to be making, because people will then make, well, we should be deciding what our kids are reading. Fine, homeschool them. Homeschool them. Fine. But there's no possible way for all of us parents to get together and we're going to agree on, and we don't want to do that. It's not our job. That's what we pay teachers for. That's what we pay. That's what the board, usually volunteers, do. I mean, that's why it's decided at many other levels, because parents can't do that, shouldn't be doing that. It's just a preposterous argument. And then they're constantly talking about freedom, but they're taking it all.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Whose freedom is next? If they're willing to take parents' freedom to decide what their kids read, if they're willing to take parents' freedom on what courses they take, if they're willing to take teachers and staff's freedom on being able to advocate for their staff, for their profession, for their students, and to be part of a union, if they're willing to keep taking everyone's rights, at what point, and freedoms, at what point are they coming after your freedom? Right. And that's the part we should be talking about. This is government overreach. This is government intrusion. The governor in the state of Florida wants to be able to say whether or not unions are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Why would the governor say that? It's for our members to decide. It's for teachers and staff in our schools to decide, is their union doing what to? We're a democratic organization, and he wants to shut us down and shut us out because he doesn't want teachers and staff in our schools to speak up.
Small d. I mean, people might be confused. Democratic organization. You have a lot of Republicans that are teachers in Florida, and they're members of the union. 30% of our membership are registered Republicans. 45% are registered Democrats. We are not, a big D Democrat organization. We are a democratically run organization who represents the interests of our members, and they're worrying about the fact that look, in Florida, we lead the nation in the increased costs of rent. Rent in the state of Florida has doubled in the last couple of years. Homeowners insurance, leading the nation, doubled in the last couple of years. Car insurance, automobile insurance, almost doubled in the last few years. And then electricity costs increasing at an alarming rate. And of course, everyone else is dealing with all the other goods that have gone up in price. But Florida is leading the nation in a lot of areas, health insurance and others. Healthcare costs are increasing at an alarming rate in Florida, more so than the rest of the nation. So if that's the case, then what is the governor doing about that? And then teachers and staff are struggling because they can't get pay raises. Well, what are you guys doing about it? How are you organizing? How can listeners, viewers on Facebook, this is fun, support you by, following you and across the country? I think it's important that people should understand that a lot of the things that happen these days in America around government and politics are starting in Florida. A lot of these strategies, you see them starting in Florida. DeSantis is obviously a very influential and effective operator, and he's getting a lot of this done. And if you think other states aren't watching, so ignore Florida at your own peril. Florida Education Association, follow them, of course, on Facebook to learn more. What else? What are you guys doing to fight back?
Yeah, so one, I would ask every listener, no matter where they are in the country, pay attention to what's going on in Florida. Governor DeSantis has indicated he's going to run for president, right? Although he hasn't formally announced, everyone believes he's going to. He's been going to other states to start campaigning. So watch what's happening in Florida, because that's what he wants to do nationally. So that's important as well. And recognize, again, yeah, I'm a Democrat, but I have a lot of friends who are Republican, a lot of members who are Republican, and they believe in smaller government. That's not what Governor DeSantis is promoting. Right. He's not promoting smaller government. He's promoting government telling you what you can and can't do. We can disagree all day long as individuals, as people. We can disagree with different organizations, but that doesn't give you the right to say, I can now control that organization or stomp out that organization. We should be working together to where we have things in common. And Republicans, Democrats, no party affiliations, everyone believes in strong public schools for every child. That's what polls show. And in Florida, we've had vouchers, we've had charter schools. We've been doing it for over 20 years. 85% of students in the state of Florida still attend the public schools, not charter schools, not voucher schools, not private schools. They're not homeschooled. They attend public schools because public schools are vital to our community. They're vital to our families. They connect us as human beings, and they're vital to student learning. It's the best place for kids to be kids and to learn. And that's why public schools are so popular. And we continue to see this attack and this attempt to undermine public schools, to profit, to make money, and to, quite honestly, keep people from getting an education they deserve and need. And we won't sit by and allow it. So our members are mobilizing, they're organizing, they are going to be in Tallahassee as often as they can during session now, talking with lawmakers. but we need everyone's help. We need the entire country to recognize that what's happening now is an attack on democracy. It's an attack on the American way of life. It is not at all a Democrat or Republican thing.
Well said. So well said.
Republicans don't agree with this either.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my last question is, as you know, I talk with a lot of black folks here on the show, experts, historians, policy, academics, journalists, and so on, and have this week, and important to always get the point of view of all kinds of different people. But, but I'll still ask you the question of, I just wonder what black folks in Florida hear, or LGBT folks in Florida hear, when they see we're not teaching this anymore. We're taking down rainbow flags, which is something I heard they did. Like, how do they hear it? I guess I'm asking you to tell me what you've heard.
Yeah, obviously, as I said, my wife is African American, and she and a lot of our friends are just incensed with what's happening in Florida right now. But even with as much as the adults are incensed, I really worry about the kids.
Yeah.
When you're a kid and you go to the library and you take out a book that connects to you, I say this a lot. As adults, you go buy books. You don't go buy books and just say, I'm just going to buy a book. You read the back cover of the book. You go to books that interest you. If you like, if you like murder mysteries, you go to the murder mystery section and look for books, right? And you look for books that you can relate to. And that's what kids do too. And we're literally seeing in schools in Florida books that talk about Black culture being pulled out of schools.
Yeah.
We see books that talk about the LGBT community being pulled out of schools. What are those kids supposed to think when they don't see books about themselves, or they see books about themselves being pulled out and said, you can't read those books anymore, and it's a book about themselves? What do you think it makes them think about themselves? It's just plain wrong. And Pete, you said something earlier. I want to say this. These smartphones, I was talking to teachers the other day in the Panhandle, and we were talking about this, and they said, in our school, almost every kid has a smartphone. What we see happening right now in our public schools, you have trained professionals who work with kids all the time, who know how to navigate difficult conversations, difficult subjects, and make sure that all kids are involved and their voice is heard. That doesn't happen on smartphones. Kids have smartphones, and with these smartphones, they are searching the internet, finding out more information they will ever find out from a public schools in an environment in which there is very little safe space. And that should be concerning to all parents more than, is there a book in school that some kid that I don't even know might have access to that may interest them, but I disagree with it.
It's such a really, really important point, because as we all know, before smartphones, if you want to learn about something, you were going to learn it on the bus, and it wasn't going to necessarily be right or accurate biologically, much less in other ways. Like, you come home and embarrass yourself in front of your parents or a teacher. Is this how babies are made? No, son, my dad said to me. And I was 15. It was late. But no, I mean, the point being, you can learn things that have no guardrails, that have no editors, and you are going to, because you've got these phones. Kids are going to find whatever they want to find, from pornography to violence to plans to, do something terrible. And that's why you need teachers and adults and experts and educators to make sure these kids are getting an education. I'm just surprised that they have smartphones in the Panhandle. I didn't realize they'd gotten there. I thought they were still
all throughout Florida, for sure.
Palm Pilots.
And look, we have a lot of great people, obviously in the Panhandle and throughout Florida. And at the end of the day, Pete, every parent I ever meet, they want the same thing you and I do. They want a great education for their kids. And that's why I really point out that most of the interference is not coming from parents in our schools. It's coming from people who don't have kids in the school. It's coming from politicians, specifically in Florida, from the governor, who's actually trying to limit the freedoms. But so often it is still coming from the parents, when it is in they're being influenced by media and politicians. And what they're doing is they're yelling about things that aren't happening. That's what's crazy, is that we have to defend against arguments about the election or about CRT. The election lie, the CRT lie, it's not happening. Let's argue about something that's literally happening. And these parents are animated by politicians and pundits on television and elsewhere.
and they come in yelling about a thing that's not even in your school. And the educators in the school, the administrators are like, wrong school, bro. Like, that's not here. We're not playing field hockey here. We don't have field hockey here. It's not a thing. And they're screaming about field hockey. You know, I mean, I was just trying to think of something that wasn't divisive, but field hockey probably is.
but I'll just say this, Pete, is that when you look at some of these debates and these conversations, they're not saying parents will say it's not happening in my child's school, but I know it's happening in someone else's. It's not happening in my child's classroom. It's happening in someone else's. And we've even seen it among the teaching ranks. Well, those elementary teachers shouldn't be doing that, or those social studies teachers shouldn't be doing that. We fall prey to people who are dividing us. That's why, as a union, I think it's so important we bring people together. And quite honestly, as a community, and that's what public schools do. They bring people together. And that's what we need to be focused on right now. That's the best antidote. Let's organize ourselves in community and in families and in churches and in synagogues and in unions in ways that we are actually bringing people together, not creating this division, because we fall prey to it as a society too much. And
we have done just that in my community, but create an organization of people who care about diversity, equity, and inclusion in their schools. And that's the last thing I want to ask you. I know I said that like 3 times, and I'm taking up a lot of your very important time, but I think it's important to just remind people and review. I mean, it happened at our board. In our schools in Clarkstown and Rockland, where you know very well the area, and it's happened at your governor said the same thing. It's not just the CRT, the advanced placement courses. They're attacking diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're saying it's something that it's not, but it wasn't controversial for years and years and years. It was widely supported across the country. They're now attacking that. So just say something about the attack on DEI that we just heard from DeSantis.
Yeah, so look, there's one of the bills passed last year attacked DEI at the college and university level. They're actually going through and trying to catalog all of the classes taught and who teaches them on diversity, inclusion, and equity in our school, in the colleges and universities in Florida. But there's a lawsuit, and that implementation of that law has been stopped so far in the courts. It's still going through the courts, but it has been stopped so far. And you think about it. If you look at history of the world, all right, you look at what happened in Nazi Germany. Look what happened in China when the Communist Party took over there. Look at other countries where we've seen these kinds of things happen. First place they go after is education. They go after the professors. They go after the teachers. They go after the education world because that's where freedom of thought actually happens. It develops. It grows. It's where people become independent. And unable to understand that there's varying viewpoints out there. And that's what's under attack right now in Florida in particular. And so and not just in the universities and colleges, Disney is under attack by our governor because Disney believes in diversity, inclusion, and equity, inclusion. And Disney believes in protecting people from all different walks of life, including people in the LGBTQ plus community. And Disney is under attack by the governor in the state of Florida. In fact, there's rumors there's going to be a special session soon to talk more about Disney. Disney, probably one of the biggest multimedia companies in the world, is under attack in Florida.
I do want to correct you. I'm not sure if Disney believed that, but he's long dead. The company that is run in his name.
Yes, very good point.
In 1994,
Disney's still out
I
there.
did my internship there, as you know, in 1994 at Epcot Center, and I was 19 years old. And I just remember there being like a gay celebration day. And I remember specifically because they would all gay folks and supporters, allies would all wear like a red shirt or something. And I remember like that day I wasn't in my uniform and I wore a red shirt. And so people were like making fun of me and everything. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, I don't think I care if people think that I am or support any of this. And then I hooked up with a guy, and it was wonderful. And it was just a wonderful time. No, I mean, like just the point of they're supportive. They've always been supportive of these issues, the company, and they've been progressive in many ways. And that's part of, I think, the strategy to damage them is to use their long support. And it's controversial, to be sure, they're being hit with that, I think, from their programming to their park rules.
That's right. And it's just this idea, I find it interesting because it wasn't that long ago that the Republican Party was saying that accusing Democrats of being the cancel culture. And yet here are Republicans saying Disney shouldn't be able to operate that way. We're going to penalize Disney.
Exactly.
Unions shouldn't be able to operate. We're going to get rid of unions. Anyone, a state attorney disagrees with me, I'm going to get rid of him. It's scientists. Yes, scientists.
Right?
Because in Florida, they're now saying that COVID never, really happened. So it is. That's not. I shouldn't say that, but it.
Well, at least the weather is beautiful.
Listen, it is a beautiful day here in Florida. It's about 80 degrees right now. Sun is out. It's a beautiful day in Florida.
Well, in your hometown, it's like 2. I want you to know. So thank you very much for all of your time, for all of your work. Say hello to all my friends at FEA. And thanks for everybody for watching. And obviously, people will hear it and watch it on delay. It's really great to connect with you, and keep up the good work. And I'll keep checking in with you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Appreciate you having me.
All right, Andrew Spar, everybody, Florida Education Association. Go follow, go support, and reach out. Do whatever you can to help those folks down there, because they are the tip of the spear. They are the laboratory where the experiments are being rolled out against America's children, and organized labor and science and so much more, welcoming diversity. I got to wrap it up. Andrew Spar, so great. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Stand Up. Let me know what you thought. Let me know who you want to hear. Always want to hear from you. standupwithpete@gmail.com is my email. I read them. I get to most of them. I get back to a lot of them, but if I have not emailed you back, it's my fault. So reach out again and tag me on Twitter or Instagram as well. You can message me there. You can DM me there easier if that's it. But if you're not a stand-up subscriber, you ought to join us. Go now, standupwithpete.com. Standupwithpete.com or patreon.com/Pete Dominic. All right, that's it. That's all. I will talk to you next time right here. So subscribe and like and favorite so you know when they drop. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.
You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up. Stand up. Point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up. Stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up. Stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up. They had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We got to let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. While you lying awake wondering where the money all went, it'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right. We got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.